All right, let's go ahead and get started. We have about 31 people in here, so definitely don't want to keep them waiting. My name is Francesca Vega. I'm the director of the Cultural Districts Program. Thank you all so much for being with us this morning. Just again, a reminder, everyone's on mute without their camera. Questions in the chat will be monitored by myself, Andrea, and Bailey Hall, who will introduce themselves. Also, questions will be answered at the end of KaDavien's presentation. We'll just kind of see how that goes. If it makes sense to take someone off a camera and make their mic available, we're happy to do that. So with that, I'm going to pass it on to Andrea, who's going to introduce herself, as well as Bailey, and then KaDavien, who will start the webinar.
Good morning. My name is Andrea McCarthy. I work with the Louisiana SHPO, and we are under the same office as the Division of Arts. So Francesca, me, and Bailey, we all work in the same office together. I oversee our historic tax credit program. And so I can help you guys with any questions about how murals could affect the historic tax credit project. And then I'll pass it over to Bailey, who can introduce herself as well.
Good morning, I'm Bailey and I run the state's National Register program, and I am here to answer any questions about how these murals might affect the historic integrity of a building through a National Register listing.
Awesome. Great day, everyone. Thanks, Andrea, Bailey, Francesca, for setting this up, the Louisiana Cultural Districts Program, the Louisiana Division of the Arts. Thanks, everyone, for taking your time to tap in and learn about the power of public art. Let's get into it. All right. Francesca, Bailey, could any of you let me know if you could see my presentation?
We can see it. You're good to go.
Good deal. We're going to start it off. Developing a community mural project. I'm public artist KaDavien Baylor. I am from Shreveport, Louisiana. And I want to tell you a little bit about myself before we hop into the artwork that has been done in my local community, the artwork that I've lended my time on this planet to, and why I think it's important and how I think it impacts our historical integrity, our historical buildings, and so many other facets that take role in implementing a mural in your community. So I'm from Shreveport, Louisiana. I am currently in Shreveport, but I've moved around the country a little bit. I got my liberal arts degree from Louisiana Tech University in 2016. And then I moved to Houston, Texas, hopped off into oil and gas and learned cartographics, which is map making. And I still do participate in the production of cartographics for several oil and gas software companies because it's a extension of my design practice, and it still very much feeds into my public art practice. So in about 2020, 2021, I went remote with that work, and then that allowed me to lend more of my time, more of my energy to the creation of public art in Houston, Texas. I came to a point in my life when I wanted to give myself in a more purposeful and vocal way, in my opinion, to society. I thought about the development of humanity and how some people's existence had communicated in a more vocal and loud way, I'd say. And through public art, I knew I had the ability to do that, to feed something inside of me that could contribute to some of our larger things that I felt needed to be addressed or celebrated through the use of public art. So I started that work in Houston, Texas. I met with an incredible group of artists under the lead artist named Reginald Adams, who is still one of my mentors. You need a mentor, and whatever you do, who could put you on game about how to address certain things and how to more impactfully do what you do. So Reginald Adams was that for me, and that was in Houston, Texas, around 2018. I got into that work in Houston, Texas, and now I am in Shreveport, Louisiana. So I'm going to walk you a little bit more through my timeline over the next few slides. So since my beginning in 2018 in Houston, working with this group of guys, I immediately was brought into some of the largest projects that an artist would like to be involved in, involving UNESCO World Heritage Sites. My first project was a mosaic project at a park called Emancipation Park, and it was so impactful. For the community there because of the history of its founding. This piece of land was bought by four freed African American, formerly enslaved people who wanted to buy a piece of land to celebrate the Juneteenth holiday. And it's called Emancipation Park. It sits in the heart of Houston and is still used today and celebrated as a landmark in the community. So to enter my public art career at this level of value and historical significance, it set a tone for me to know the power of public art, to know what it meant to people, what it could mean, how it had a symbolism and a liking to the pyramids of Giza or any other sculptural installation that could mark the time and development of humanity. And that's what I wanted to continue to do. So I did several more projects throughout Houston with this team. And at this point, I'm well over 60 plus public art projects. And this just informs you of the knowledge and experience that I've been able to occur to speak to the topics that I'm going to cover with you today. I've had several NEA grant funded projects, all in Shreveport, Louisiana. The National Endowment of the Arts does provide funding for the Louisiana Division of the Arts, which provides funding for 9 regions in Louisiana, and Shreveport, Louisiana is in Region 7. So I encourage you to connect with your local arts council. They definitely will be able to provide information about funding opportunities for any public art projects you may want to do, any mural projects, anything that could connect the community with the arts. I think it's important to go to them as a resource to get you started. If you have no idea about how to creatively come up with funding techniques or how to collaborate with other partners, which I'll touch on later in this webinar. I think it's a great starting point, your local regional arts council. So do that research about who you need to talk to locally to get your project funded, administered, and organized. One of the main things that I like to do is include the community in my work. Like it's the bread and butter. It's the heart of what I do. It's really it's more that is at the top of my list out of the projects that I do. That's what I focus on the most. I have to have a balance of community related projects. Actually, I just finished 2 last week, and I have another one this week with a local with a local organization called Shreveport Green. But I've engaged over 5,000 community members, and this includes students, working with nonprofit organizations, working with businesses, to work with local community citizens, and just putting out open calls on Facebook, doing whatever I needed to do to spread the word about bringing people together in order to create a monument, to create an opportunity for them to feel like they can contribute to society in an artistic way. And you have people who may look at it like it's not really creating any value. Me, I'm on the total other end of the spectrum. I don't even think that we understand fully the value in bringing people together to create and to enhance their neighborhoods, the places that they live, um, to create these experiences that they'll never forget. It's a family building moment, and there are just so many beautiful things. So I like to keep putting the public in public art, and that's something I also got from my mentor Reginald Adams. So shout out to him. I don't know if he's on, but he'd love to hear that. All right. So some of my notable mural projects. The first one, Absolute Equality. This is a project that I did in Galveston, Texas, and it's so important to me because it actually marks when Juneteenth became a national holiday. So to be able to have done a mural project that's 5,000 square feet in Galveston, Texas, that marks uh, the the freedom of enslaved Africans is something that I couldn't have planned. To be able to be a part of something like this is monumental for an artist, and it continued to affirm why I do what I do, and me being able to seek out the fruit in being able to create public art. It's the location, it's the ability to inform the public, to enhance a community, um, to create a tourist attraction. So all these things are able to be achieved through public art and through mural work. So this was a very fun project. It took about a month to do. And since then, it spawned off a series of Capital One sponsored projects across the nation. I think it's up to 21 different cities that have a absolute equality mural, including Shreveport, which was the second one after the first one that we did in Galveston, Texas. And I'll be able to show the Shreveport absolute equality mural and talk a little bit more about its significance locally and how a national campaign can influence local educational offerings through your mural project. I've worked with the Hilton. We have a Hilton Shreveport downtown. It's a city entity into which it has a collaboration with the city of Shreveport to generate tax funds to support the city. So I love working with the Hilton. I've done 2 murals with them, including the one on the right, which is on their rooftop. And in this mural, we're able to celebrate the music history of the city of Shreveport, some of the architectural history. We have the Bukowski Bridge of Lights, which you can see, and then we have the Hot Air Balloon Festival right over the river. So it's just a full circle moment to be able to highlight the local attractions in your city through a local corporate entity. And also, I was able to do something to celebrate the employees and the staff in the lower levels of the hotel, which was really fun to work with them to learn about some of the things that they experienced. That some of the people you don't even get to talk to, the chefs, um, the cleaners of the rooms, the people that the concierge, the people that open the doors for you, like they need to be shown appreciation. So the manager of the Hilton allowed this opportunity for a mural to be created that celebrated their work that had been contributed to the organization with. So that was fun. Worked with Foot Locker on 2 locations in Houston, Texas, and those were more corporate, commercial style, just fun projects that celebrated Houston. It's also known as Space City. So we did a Space City theme with them, and they wanted to celebrate some of the local heritage, some of the streets that Foot Locker was located on and really popular in the area. So if you know about anything about the culture in Houston, it's known for its swangers, is what they call it, the type of vehicles that have the nice rims on them that stick out, the spokes, and they have the trunks popped and all kind of like urban swag to it. So that was a fun corporate project. The next one is Ben and Jerry's. That's another corporate entity that allowed us to have fun. They were doing this really nice tie-dye print that you'll see in this presentation. So, but they also released uh, a new brand of ice cream called Justice for All, which was all about celebrating diversity and equity for all. So that was a nice collaboration, and I appreciated that they used art in order to communicate about something with a level of depth to it. Also, Valspar Be Bright campaign in Ruston, Louisiana was a project that involved a larger entity, and I'll be able to show you that as well. And it's all about celebrating the potential for the arts to be used to celebrate life. So many of these projects have been very inspirational for me as well as the people that we get to create it for. Upcoming in July 2024, I'll be going to Bremerton, Washington to create a new mural in the downtown of Bremerton at a development called Quincy Square, which is going to celebrate the life and legacy of American record producer Quincy Jones. So that's a new development that I'm really excited about. All of these projects have a community focus, and that's what we're here to talk about, how to use these projects to celebrate community. So this is the Absolute Equality Juneteenth mural. It came together so beautifully, and that the partners for this project, the Shreveport Regional Arts Council, the City of Shreveport, and Caddo Parish came together to help fund this project. If you know about the City of Shreveport, it is one of the last geographical places for the Confederacy to concede in the Civil War. So for a mural to be like this in downtown Shreveport is monumental, and it was an honor to be able to create this mural in collaboration with Caddo Parish Poet Laureate, Poetic Etz. If you see on the right of the screen, his poem is at the top panel, and above it, we used an Adinkra symbol in the shape of an Etz. That means, I think it means freedom or emancipation, to celebrate his artwork. And then the different panels across the bottom, we get to educate the community about topics such as racism, about topics like the Civil War, how Abraham Lincoln played a part in it, what it was about, freeing African Americans, and the generation of the Union Army. Then we move into the Reconstruction period, some of the local Jim Crow activity, some of the African American businesses, African American civil rights activists that were local, some of the local topics that were happening as far as crime and race relations within the city. So this is a very dense mural. It does tap on some of the more sensitive societal subjects, but I think art has the opportunity to make things more digestible, and that was our focus here. We don't want to forget our history or allow it to become diluted. We want to address it, understand it for what it is, and continue to develop in humanity. At the bottom of this mural, you see the different color blocks, which we invited the community to come out and support the painting of the foundation of this mural. And we did that on Juneteenth in 2022. All right. So next, this mural is so fun. It's the From Shreveport with Love mural. 5 artists came together. Actually, 3 artists were already thinking about how to collaborate. Myself and another artist were working together on another project and saying that we wanted to do something that actually said Shreveport. And you would be so surprised to hear how many people said, "Oh, we don't want another billboard style Shreveport mural." And we stuck to our guns. We knew that this was something that we really wanted to do. So all 5 artists came together and they said, "Hey, two each, we are going to come up with local recreational activities, local businesses, staples for the community that we're going to include in the letters of the word Shreveport. And we're going to include some love to balance out that hate." Anyway, so we put out a public call to the community, and we asked for the community members to suggest local landmarks, activities, businesses that they thought should be included in this mural. And from left to right, we have the Strand Theater, we have Cross Lake, we have our music heritage, we have the City of Shreveport skyline, we have the Southern Made hot donuts, which is everybody knows Southern Made in Shreveport is just the go-to donut spot. We have the American Rose Center, we have the aquarium, we have the Highland Arch, which is a very notable neighborhood in the city of Shreveport. Again, we have the Hot Air Balloon Festival, and we have Art the Dalmatian and the Tea, which is the Dalmatian sculpture that sits outside of our Shreveport Regional Arts Council. So this was a project that was funded by a National Endowment of the Arts grant, but we needed a little bit more funding to make it come full circle. So we partnered with the Downtown Development Authority, which had grant funding for a beautification to bring this project full circle. And it was fun, and now it serves as a place for photo shoots. Many people love to just come and use it. It's been in several commercials. I get like a message per month asking me if I'm getting some kind of payment for this for this mural artwork to be included in commercials. But it serves as a testament of artists bringing an idea to the entities versus the entities bringing the idea out to the artist. We brought this from our own inspiration. This is what we wanted to see, and we found out how to implement this in the community. And turns out it's something that the community needed. So in all cases, you won't have the funding that you need available for your project. And it's going to be a little scrappy. There are several projects that I've had to do over, or that I've been able to do, but I've had to be scrappy about the funding approach and being creative in how we go about finding the sources in order to make things happen, just because I felt so strongly about the vision. So this is one of those projects from Shreveport with Love. It's in downtown Shreveport. This project is a community garden project. I work a lot with an organization called Shreveport Green. Shreveport Green actually has several community gardens around the city of Shreveport, and this is the first project that they decided to use public art to enhance the experience of the garden. Now, it's Martin Luther King on the shipping container because this is located in a predominantly African American neighborhood, and in every predominantly African American neighborhood, there's going to be an MLK street. So this garden is on MLK. And they brought the idea to me. They said, hey, we want MLK on this shipping container. It houses and stores a lot of our supplies and equipment. What can you do that's creative? And I know that this is a part of town that is historically under invested in. So I wanted to create something that's totally new. I wanted to create something that was modern, that pops from the side of the road, something that would inspire the people to know that their location was being invested in a way that wasn't classical. I just wanted something new. I knew they needed a fresh pop of energy. So that's why I took this approach to creating the MLK in this uh, set of vibrant colors and this more modern geometrical style approach. And I made sure to include vegetables and fruits to continue to pay homage to Shreveport Green and what their essential purpose is, as well as a motivational message to continue to encourage the community, be the best. Are these people able to have access to somebody who encourages them on a daily basis? So I try to use this public art in order to do that. And now you have organizations like the Shreveport Fire Department that come out here and they're able to use it as a backdrop, but also take part in the energy of the mural, be the best. It speaks to everybody that comes out and supports this community. So these are the type of projects that I really enjoy because I feel like they have a very large capacity to implement change in someone's life. Okay, Origin Court, Valencia Park, Stoner Hill, Shreveport, Louisiana. Another project that was brought to us by City Council members, Lavette Fuller. At the time, Lavette knew she wanted to see change in this neighborhood. She wanted something inspirational. She had been seeing some of the projects that I had done in a few schools and felt like she could trust me to bring a more contemporary feel to this part of town. This community is Stoner Hill. It has a very strong integrity, a strong history, a very strong community, and she wanted us to communicate a message. So I thought about, hey, why can't we communicate a message of ascension, of people reaching for transformation, for growth? And that's why we included the butterflies in the center of the court, and we went with very vibrant colors, and we also had some help. We included a group of art classes from a local high school called Caddo Magnet High, who helped us paint this mural in. They were so great. It was like the way we set it up, we allowed it to be like a big coloring book. And groups at a time, the kids came in and used this Valspar concrete stain to illustrate this artwork. At the bottom right, you see artist Ben Moss. He's a collaborator of mine, and we've worked on several community projects together. But again, we allow the students to be educated on what it is to take up your own energy and make change in the community. I feel like everybody can contribute to their community outside of depending on their local government or their city council or what your mayor is doing. How can you impact your community? And public art is a very low hanging fruit way to do that. And it happens in a much shorter amount of time than a plan or city development that may take 5 to 10 years. You can do this in 2 to 3 weeks, make instrumental change like that. So that was a very fun project. And this court, this court actually was created right after a shooting had happened on another basketball court that was down the road. So it was good timing to celebrate good energy through the use of public art. When we had the reveal, we were able to invite the family out of the kid that had been shot at the other basketball court. So we just wanted to create a safe place. We need to remind people through the use of investment that, they can enjoy the places that they live. So that's another sector of the power of public art. The East Kings Duck Pond. I only included this because of the beauty and the fact that a local paint company that was celebrating its 75th anniversary called Martin Specialty Coatings. They wanted to celebrate by giving to their community. So they selected 5 different parks around the city, and they said they wanted to do public art installations throughout these parks. This is one of them. This is East Kings Duck Pond Park. So looking at the pathway, I definitely knew that I wanted to make some kind of experience that involved the creek that runs along the park. So I thought it would be cool to see the fish flowing down the pathway, and it's just fun for kids and the vibrancy of the colors. And the greatest thing was Martin Specialty Coatings had over 100 volunteers out from their company coming out to work together to paint in this artwork. And that's the real artwork, in my opinion, when people can come together uh, and do something in hopes of spawning a greater source of inspiration for the community. And that's what happened on that day. Oh, well, over those couple of days, we were able to paint some of the pavilions in the area. They've upgraded all of the park equipment at this park since then. And this still sits as a staple in the community, another source of impacting your community through public art. Okay, Lakes of Knowledge, Mooringsport, Louisiana. This was a more recent project. It's not paint, it's vinyl, which I'll talk a little bit about, but it made this project very seamless. And it shortened the amount of time that it took in order to produce it. We had a short timeline to produce this project. This project, I think, was sponsored by the Louisiana Division of the Arts 1% program. So what we wanted to do was to take advantage of the art at its full capacity. Mooringsport is not a very big town. It's in North Louisiana, but it does have a very big history. It has a very big source of culture, and that's what we use to inspire the artwork. Everybody in the community drives past this school. All of the kids come to Mooringsport Elementary in this community. So as people are picking up their kids, they're able to see this artwork and reflect on the community that they live in. Um, when I was given this project, I really had to meet with the local residents. I had to meet with the school principal. I had to do my own independent research about what are the things that is important to celebrate in this community? If you look at the design at the top of the screen, from left to right, we tell a story. We talk about the local fishing and recreational activities. We represent diversity in the school. We talk about it being sponsored by the Louisiana Division of the Arts by including the logo, but also the A plus that sits on top of it, because this is a Blue Dog Louisiana A plus school, which means they have a program that includes creativity in their educational programming. We included George Rodriguez Blue Dog because he's the one that his estate owns the Louisiana A+ programming. So we include several of his books throughout the piece. We include the names of the principals in the books that the kids are sitting on. We celebrate the symbolism of Louisiana heritage through the magnolia, the pelican. Mooringsport as an oil town, so you see the rig in the M behind the kids. It's historically founded by Caddo Indians, so you see the Indian silhouette within the last orange hoop. Huddy Ledbetter is a famous musician from North Louisiana who is from Mooringsport, so to include a silhouette in the last child enjoying music because every child doesn't love reading the way that other children do. So this was a great opportunity to touch on many things and to use the symbolism in a collaborative way. It really was fun to me to do this project because, again, we could include a message, a motto of the school. Together we encourage, together we achieve. And that doesn't only speak to the school, it speaks to the community. So there are so many opportunities to inspire and be creative in the way that you implement public art. And for the application of this project, we used a vinyl wrap. I work with a local company called Oddball Printing, and they use a vinyl called 3M Envision print wrap film. And this is vinyl that can last for 5 to 10 years. We have many vinyl projects around the city of Shreveport. The beauty in it is that you can remove it. And that's why so many entities are open to use it. It has a removable uh, set of instructions that you just apply heat and you can take the vinyl off. And I've done it indoor and outdoor, and I have spec sheets on this product. Please just drop any information, any questions in the chat if you'd like to learn more about the type of products we've used and the processes that we've used in order to go about this. The beauty in vinyl is that the artwork can be created digitally and then printed. It doesn't have to be painted by hand, although that is another technique, but it allows for an artist that works small scale to be able to expand their work large scale and print at a very larger view. So we've done a lot of projects like that around the city of Shreveport. I know the Shreveport Regional Arts Council and has done about 7 murals around the city in its Caddo Common Park area that has taken this technique. So I think it's great for historic preservation as well for historic buildings. So I'm sure we'll be able to talk more about that. All right. So in the next couple of slides, I just want to go over a few things that I feel are important when it comes to the creation of community murals, from planning your mural project to your budget, what that budget should be like, estimating costs, you're getting your funding sources together, as I've kind of touched on already, managing your finances for your project, community engagement, number 3, one of my most favorite parts of what I do, how you build those relationships, and those relationships go on to continue to feed you and encourage new projects in the future. Um, Outreach strategies, sustaining engagement, types of community involvement that are available. In every project, community won't just be painting next to you. Sometimes community involvement is in the planning stage and how you think about how you want to communicate a message and how many people can have a influence on the actual message versus the actual application of the artwork. So there are multiple ways to go about community involvement in your work. And then we'll talk about mural projects on historic buildings and my experience with that. Great. So, planning your mural project, what's your purpose? This image is of Linwood Public Charter School. This is a school in the heart of Shreveport that I knew the principal at the school, and she said she wanted public art, and we wanted to create something that could communicate to the students, and it represented them and also inspired them. This mural is called the Dreamers Mural. But what's your purpose? the purpose of creating this mural for me was to provide a source of inspiration for the students. Um, but there are many influences on your purpose. So let's start with concept development. What do you want to talk about? The importance of a clear vision is so dynamic. It leads you to your research, to being able to come up with the things that are going to help educate your community. It leads you to know what your community needs to hear, what they need. They may need inspiration. The city of Shreveport is a great example in that if you have an understanding of its history, of the needs of the citizens, the things that they want to see change and develop, a lot of people need hope. And public art is a great opportunity to provide hope for people through your messaging or the fact that they feel that they are able to see investment in their community, which also provides hope. So in your concept development, you can think about all of these things. What do people need to see? And this moves you into a stage of sketching out your ideas to paper, working with local artists, or coming up with what this looks like visually. And then you move into your site selection. Where does this belong? Um, Choosing the right location is important. Factors to consider: visibility, your foot traffic, and your local culture. You don't want to put something in the corner of uh, alleyway that no one is going to see. You want to put it somewhere that communicates to the public, and you also have to think about who's going to be seeing this work. You don't want to put something about the Caddo Indian history in a part of town or a part of Louisiana that the Caddo Indians didn't inhabit. It needs to make sense, and that'll further inform the illustrations that you include in your artwork. And once you find the location, of course, you have to secure your permissions, whether that's your local organizations or the actual building owner or the neighbors in the area. You can go as far as making sure they're okay with this type of imagery being shown in the area. I've never come across a situation where I've had someone tell me, no, we don't want you to do that there. Usually everybody's happy about the inclusion of public art, and especially once you get to a position of respect where they honor and think that you're going to do a good job in communicating something that's impactful for the community. So these are pretty much the steps that I take when it comes to planning my mural. Once again, if you have any questions, please be sure to put it in the chat. Uh, More than happy to talk more about this space and just to cover anything that I may be overlooking. But these are pretty much the steps when it comes to planning. Also, you always want to just maintain the integrity of your communication. What is your vision throughout the creation of your artwork? All right, budgeting for your mural. Expenses, expenses. I did not know I would learn so much about expenses when I decided to be a public artist and a artspreneur. Estimating cost. How much are your paints, your brushes, your scaffolds? How much is that going to cost for a public artist or someone who manages many public art projects? I think it's important to list these things out and maintain a template. And that template could be percentage based, meaning that based on the square footage or the vastness of your artwork, the detail or how much time it's going to take you, that reflects in the amount of materials you'll need. And over time with experience, you'll be able to formulate an idea about it where you won't really even need to refer to that. But it's always good to refer back to a list, a checklist of items, so you won't forget anything. And then you always have to include labor and be conservative with your estimates. Be conservative with understanding your contractor's time. As a public artist, I don't employ full time yet. So I work with a lot of contractors and they have other jobs going on. So I have to be mindful of their schedules and how it works with the implementation of my projects. So I also have to calculate for transportation, permits, insurance. Projects won't always ask for insurance, but the larger your projects get, the more questions and the more allowables you're going to have. So insurance is something to always work into your cost. And I'll show a breakdown of how I usually think about my costs within budgeting. For funding sources, like I told you earlier, grants, your local arts council is a great reference for your funding sources. Um, they can also help you with coming up with new ways to collaborate with organizations that may have similar interest. I've also put out a GoFundMe to help support my projects before, and that's worked, whether I'm doing things through a nonprofit that needs to take uh, donations and they could funnel that into your arts project. Sometimes you have to get creative if you are the one leading the process for the implementation of public art, and it's not being delegated to you by a entity. And managing your finances is also extremely important because you don't want to get to the end of your project and you can't provide a maintenance plan or securities for maintenance in the future in 5 years. If you want to touch up your mural, make sure that it's still communicating at the quality that it did initially. That's always something that you can work into your budget. So be mindful of that and track your expenses throughout your process. You don't want to get to the end and run out of paint and you can't complete your project. I mean, you always want to be very conservative in your estimates. And the next slide, I'll provide a square footage rate that I think helps with that. And usually that's $20 to $25 per square foot for your murals. On the left is a pie chart, pretty much breaking down the percentages of my budgets. Of course, artist fees, the administration of the project, the documentation. Are you going to work with a videographer or have a photographer documenting it? And also the time you put into documenting the impact. If you're applying for a grant, you always have to have a follow-up after the project is completed. The maintenance, do you want to keep a few gallons of paint for the owner in order to be able to touch up certain spots, or do you want to just keep that amount of money tucked away in order so to go back to it to be able to do whatever maintenance you need to do, the time that it takes to put together a plan in order to be able to communicate how to go about the maintenance is also an expense. Your contingency plan, your community engagement marketing plan, whether it's Facebook ads or doing something on the radio, your print material, whatever you have to do in order to inform the local community. Social media is the top way that I've been doing it, and my collaborators and partners have gone about doing it. So that cuts a lot of cost. Also, your site logistics. Do you have storage on site? For one project, I had to rent a U-Haul to store my materials while I worked on a project. So just, that's something to consider. And it's all based on where you're working at. If sometimes my clients may have a closet that I could store things in while I'm working, and so that's a cost that you can forego, but it's not always like that. So you need a list in order to evaluate your project. Permits and insurance, always something you may need to tap into. And of course, materials and supplies. So on the right of this screen, I just put a few more details to further explain some of the needs and the importance of the different sections in the pie chart. For the artist fees, the design fee of the artwork and the execution fee, there are two separate fees within your budget. It's not all one thing. You need to be able to keep it separate in order to maintain a conservative budget. Of the site logistics, the safety equipment, are you on a boom lift, a scissor lift, or do you have the straps that you need in order to connect to your scissor lift? And this, of course, is more for the actual artist, but it's good for everyone to know when you get a budget from an artist, these are the things that's included in it. And so it'll help you understand the cost. And any artist on the call, it should encourage you to not be afraid of putting together a budget. I know a lot of artists are afraid to put out certain numbers, and that just shouldn't be the case. Your work is just as valuable and important as any other industry, and you need to be able to make sure that you're compensated for that work and that you can complete it effectively. Community engagement, the workshops. Usually there's more than just one meeting that takes place for community engagement or workshops or learning and meeting a community. And where does that take place? Do you give them food, or how do you make sure they're comfortable during this engagement? So those are things that you want to continue to keep in mind just during your budgeting and your planning stages. This next slide just touches on a few more things like documentation and maintenance, your permits, your insurance, your administration. A lot of times I am the administrator of the project. So my office supplies, my work is split up into half of my time is on the computer, half of it is implementing public art. And as a public artist, the lead artist in my studio practice, those are things to consider. So I would be happy to share more of these details to anyone who would like to just have it on hand and to learn more about it. But each of these categories ensure that all aspects of creating and maintaining a public art mural are adequately funded. It's just making sure you're safe. And so let's continue to move through. Community engagement, tips and methods. Like I said, I love working with the community. I love to see people conquer their fears. If I can't tell you how many times I've heard people say, I can't even draw a stick figure. Like I need to put it on a t-shirt. I think that the way that we provide public art opportunities allow people to conquer the idea that they can't paint or contribute in an artistic way. So it's always fun to see them conquer what they think they can achieve and what they think they can do. So, in community engagement, of course, you want to build the relationships. You want to talk to the local residents and businesses about how this artwork can impact their local community to see how they feel about it or if they have any input. They may know more about an area than you do. And it's so interesting to have these connections with people that allow you to expand the value of your artwork. So be open to communicating. Um, and I say approach it with a method of love over fear. Don't worry about, coming in contact with someone who may tell you, I don't think you should do that artwork here. I don't think it will speak well, or I don't think that I want to see any color on my building. There is a nature in our society and in our time that has built buildings that are brown and gray and made our locations a little mundane. And public art has the ability to make that more vibrant. So always approach it with a sense of love and hope that you will get what you need out of these connections and conversations with people in the local area. Collaborating with local artists is always great. I have a project that I'm getting ready to set up with Amazon here in Shreveport, and the first thing that came to my mind is how can we include other local artists? Because the goal for Amazon is to highlight the local Shreveport community. And who's better to do that than the local artist? And who's better to have in a portfolio for local artists than a company like Amazon? So I'm extremely happy about that kind of collaboration. And that's the beauty that could happen in the organization of your projects. Outreach strategies, hosting community meetings, like I said earlier, that is something that sometimes may be required by the organization that's putting out the call or hosting your call. I know with the Shreveport Regional Arts Council, multiple times we've held community meetings or we've held a panel to review the artwork that is going to be produced, and it's always yielded a positive and fruitful outcome. Involving schools and youth groups is always fun. It's community service, and it allows them another opportunity to feel like they are contributing to their community. And sustaining engagement, how do you continue to make sure that your work is actually working? And that's something that's kind of hard to document. You know, unless you're tapped in every day with this community and you see children or get feedback from the community, that's something that's I'm still even learning myself. Um, but creating interactive elements in the mural always allow opportunities for people to come back and take pictures. It just extends the life of the artwork. So that's one way to tell if your artwork has been effectful and impactful. Hosting events and tours. I am getting ready to set up a series of tours for the murals that I've done around Shreveport. I've hosted tours for local high schools for the murals around Shreveport. So I definitely see the impact and the fun in that. And maintaining long-term relationships with the community. I think it's great how if you include historical elements in your artwork, it can always be a reference point or serve as a visual curriculum to continue to educate your local community about where they live and to celebrate the place that they live. I feel like that is a primitive uh, aspect of the creation of public art. All right. So, mural projects on historic buildings. This is a historic building in Ruston, Louisiana. This project was sponsored by Valspar, the paint company. Um, and they had a campaign called Be Bright. So they commissioned me to celebrate the local history and the arts scene in downtown Ruston. This building is called the Ditsy Center of the Arts. It has always been a theater or a local attraction for this railroad town as people have come in and through the city of Ruston. They've been able to stop off at this theater for entertainment since the 1930s, I think. Um, and so to be able to do this artwork on the side of this building was great, but they had to go through a very lengthy process in order to make sure that it was maintained. They had to repoint the building. They had to remove trees from around the local landscaping. They repainted the entire building. Um, well, actually, only this side and the front of it. Um, yeah, but this project was great. It was fun. It was an opportunity to celebrate the local college, which is Louisiana Tech, my alma mater, and to celebrate the railroad history through the film strip running at the bottom, to celebrate the dancing, the arts in every realm through this piece. So this is Valspar Be Bright, and it was on a historical building in downtown Ruston, Louisiana. All right. So understanding historic preservation. What's the importance of preserving historical integrity? I know when it comes to our schools and our history, we always have to continue to share this history and celebrate it. And the arts is a low-hanging fruit way to do that. So I take up my own uh, role in society to do this, to use my public art as a form of media. And I encourage each and every one of you to do the same when or if needed to take advantage and control of the narratives put out about the history of your location, working within the regulations and guidelines of your local community, of course. Um, so that boils down to working with organizations that may be in place, like historical preservation societies. In Shreveport, we have a historical preservation organization in which I have gone before to present the idea for the From Shreveport with Love mural, which was on a historical building. So when it comes to working on a historical building, we had to, one, before we even brought it to them, understand that the building had already been painted on before. That allowed us to know that, okay, we may be able to paint on this building. If a building hasn't been painted on or touched before, it's for a reason. Usually there is some kind of construction or maintenance or historical heritage that needs to be maintained in order to preserve tax credits or a historical um, a source of historical relevance that the preservation committee wants to maintain as a attraction. And they have a similar interest to preserve history as a public artist may. And sometimes they just don't work together, But I've never come into a situation where I wasn't able to approach a historical building and produce artwork on it that wasn't in my favor. So you have to come familiar with your local organizations. Who are the people that you need to talk to that are part of historical preservation? What's the relevance of the building that you may want to do work on? Is there another option for your public art project? Can it go somewhere else? There are many ways to work around working with historical preservation. And I can't speak on all of the incentives when it comes to tax credits, but we do have people on this call that can answer questions about that. So if you have any questions about the specific details about what you can and can't do, please be sure to drop them in the chat because we have people who work with this every day on the call. All right. So, like I said, identify your relevant organizations, build a case for your project, like we did for Shreveport from Shreveport with Love. It's a project that celebrates our city. It was a no-brainer. Why wouldn't you want to do something that encourages tourism and celebrates the things that have attached memories to your childhood, especially for the people that live here? And then from there, just navigating the approval process. What does it take? Who are the bodies that are included in the decision making and getting those green checks next to their names to make things move forward? And then you want to balance art and preservation. What are the techniques for respectful integration? Like, how serious are you about maintaining the history? And how much research have you done when it comes to that? What case studies exist of projects that have been successful in doing this? And all of our cities may have a project that documents history in some form or fashion. So I suggest that you tap into that and you use it as a source, not saying that it has to influence the actual artistry, but it can influence the way that you communicate with your local community. Okay, so now that we're at the open floor discussion, everyone on this call is muted. Francesca, do you know if we had any things in chat that people had questions about?
Yes, starting with Kirk Reedstrom, they asked that they said they would love to learn more about the vinyl that you've been using.
Oh, yeah, sure. So, Kirk, if you drop your email in the chat, and I will send over spec charts for what we've been using. And Kirk is actually in Shreveport. I know Kirk. So, Kirk, I can get you all the information you need to know because knowing your practice, you work digitally, and I would love to see your artwork uh, implemented through a vinyl installation. And there are so many ways that you could use vinyl. You can put it on the floor, you can put it on the wall, interior, exterior, you can create signage. So the opportunities are boundless for creating your digital work at a larger scale. And being able to have something that you can remove makes it something that can be temporary or it can serve in a more permanent fashion. So vinyl is a great approach for implementing a mural.
Similarly, Suzanne Williams asked, or she said she would like to know more about the products to use for the sidewalk and the vinyl application. And she
So
also
for
provided her email address.
Okay, sure. We can send her the vinyl information, but for the sidewalk, I worked with a local paint company called Harrison Paint, and we experimented. So I've worked with two different types of substrates before. I worked on concrete and asphalt, and I've used a concrete stain before to do two basketball courts. And I've also used a paint called super paint, which I was just introduced to in Monroe, Louisiana. The city of Monroe, on all of their government buildings and large structures, use a paint called super paint, which I also can get you the information on that, but it's very durable. We've painted a whole basketball court in it, and we haven't seen any issues with it. But of course, we're still keeping an eye on it, but you can't just use any kind of paint on concrete, of course, because that'll very quickly come right up. Any water-based paint, uh, even enamel paint, it forms a different bond with the actual concrete substrate if you use a stain. So I suggest using a concrete stain. That's what they use on all of your parking lots, for your parking stripes and things of that nature.
KaDavien, I don't know if it was you or one of us, but we're in together mode, so that could be an interesting visual for viewers.
Oh, we did what?
We're in together mode, but I'm just gonna move through
Oh, okay.
the question. So next is from Ellen Ogden. Great insight. You mentioned making sure culture was represented with appropriateness. In the vinyl mural you showed, how did you decide on the Caddo image? Who had input and how was that exchange? How did you decide to use the feather headdress?
Oh, that's awesome. I love that question. And that was one of my favorite parts. Knowing the Caddo Indian heritage in North Louisiana. Uh, as a public artist, I am very unbiased to the representation of any culture. I more so am biased to making sure we are staying as close to the truth of the history as possible. And I feel like the Caddo Indians aren't celebrated enough in North Louisiana. So I look forward to doing more projects in that area. But I worked with the principal and the art teacher and a few more staff members at Mooringsport Elementary, alongside of Executive Director Pam Atchison and President Henry Price of the Shreveport Regional Arts Council to uh, review the history of the local area, to go away from the initial meeting, do our independent research, and to come back to the table to see that several of the bullet points included in the artwork we had aligned on, from the history of Caddo Lake, the steamboats that used to ride Caddo Lake, the Caddo Indian history, the Louisiana A+ program celebration, George Rodrigue inclusion. All of these things were brought from independent sources together to have been realized that we all wanted to include the same things in this artwork. So that made it very easy to move forward in the inclusion of Caddo Indians. And as far as the headdress, that is a that is a component of the artwork that is not specifically pulled from Caddo Indian heritage. It is a representation used so that people know that it is an Indian. So that's a great question. It could be more thought out. What kind of headdresses did they wear? You know, I think that is something that's very important to think about the detail in your artwork, because it makes your story that you tell more expansive. So I wish I would have had that question before I even created that mural.
Thanks, KaDavien. Next is from Dara Calms. Do you have any recommendations on the process of getting murals / public art in a historic district? And this might include Andrea and Bailey in this conversation.
Okay, well, my my suggestion, how I would go about what I want to communicate first, Derek. What's the point of doing the artwork? Do you want to celebrate the history of the location? Who can you talk to that's helped create that historic district, that can amplify your project and amplify the support of your project? How can you help their efforts through the creation of your projects? And there are several questions that you should ask that will help you decide what artwork is going to you want to create, as well as who else can you help through the creation of the project that will help you build a team that could then formulate a concept that you could take into the realm of how can we get this funded. And that's how I would start with my work on it.
I can chime in just quickly. From a technical perspective, the first thing you want to do is understand what kind of historic district you're in. Are you in a local historic district? And if so, are there local guidelines that you need to be following? And that's kind of what he mentioned when he was saying going before the historic district to present his project. That would be a local city historic district. If it's a National Register historic district, there aren't necessarily any approval processes. This is the program that Bailey oversees. However, if there's any federal grant associated with it, then it would be reviewed. So you need to think about that. And then if it's a historic tax credit project that's either active or has happened on the building within 5 years, then you may have approval from the National Park Service. So those are things you need to really figure out on the technical side before you begin. Bailey, you have anything to add?
I mean, most of the approval from NPS, if you go the tax credit route, will talk about, maintaining historic materials and things like that. And if you have questions about that, Andrea and the tax credit staff can answer your questions on that. Just a note on National Register listings, anything that's within a historic district that's considered a contributing element, should be evaluated before any paint or vinyl is applied to a building. If there is existing historic signage, like a previous mural, NPS really likes for those to be restored. If you're just looking for a space to do a community mural, like he mentioned earlier, find another space to put it, maybe on a building that's not contributing to the historic district, if that's an option first, because it could affect the historic integrity of the building and then the listing status of that building as well.
All right, thank you all for contributing to that. Roberta Caro Jackson said it would be nice to have a spreadsheet template. I believe she was referring to the budget. So I would imagine KaDavien, you would want her email in the chat to follow up on that.
Please drop your email.
All right, next, another question from Ellen Ogden. Have you compared your fees to other artists and communicating with other artists? I have found that $20 per square foot to be for low need projects such as logos, prompts, and sites. Is this your standard?
No, it's not my standard. Actually, everything is relative. I gave an average. North Louisiana, Shreveport, even, you have to consider the economy you're in Houston, I could charge more. I could charge a higher rate. So this is definitely what I found to be the average in Shreveport. And yes, the amount of detail does impact that. The scale does impact that. So it's a case by case status. I have compared it, and if you look it up on the internet, that is probably going to tell you $15 per square foot. But I am always open to communicating with other artists about what they're doing, what they're charging per square foot, especially with a reference of how the economy is developing and what our rates are. All those are things to consider in generating a square foot amount. But it's a good number to provide to a client if they just said they want something on a wall. That helps them have an understanding about what they'll need to bring to the table. It's a number that allows them a good enough reference point.
Yeah, I think I recall you saying $20, $25, and mentioning that it can vary.
Mhm.
I think during that part of the webinar, you mentioned that. Let's see the other questions. Jessica Mulligan would also like to have the vinyl information. She dropped her email, as did Charlene Beckett. Let's see. As well as Tali Broussard. Great presentation. Roberta Caro Jackson said, check with your town council or mayor's office to see if there is a historic district commission or historical society in the area. They would provide guidelines. I think this kind of speaks to what Andrea and Bailey had mentioned with that earlier question.
Great.
And Lisa Kuiper would also like to have Andrea and Bailey's email addresses. She dropped her email in the chat. Andrea provided hers, as did Bailey. Cami asked, greetings and thank you for this panel. I got waylaid by an office visitor, so I came in a little late. Did y'all say there is a document on working with historic districts? So I think that might be for Andrea and Bailey.
Document, although there was a lot of good guidance provided in the presentation. So maybe in some of the slides, it'll give you some guidance on how to approach a project, but just reach out to our office as well as the city that you're in to see what kind of district you're in, and you can go from there.
Okay, and Anna K asked, what is an average timeline from inception to completion?
Wow, that's a very interesting question because it varies. I may have a client that wants to do a small office mural, and it depends on my schedule as well. If I don't have anything on the schedule, I can get to it immediately. Let's say I dedicate a week to putting together designs after receiving a design deposit, get it back to the client. It depends on how quickly they get back to me, letting me know if they like it or if they don't like it, and then any adjustments they may require. If there are no adjustments, it's as easy as finding a date on the schedule. That could be the next week, it could be the next day, it could be months from now, to get it started, to lock it into a calendar location. And then depending on the scale and the detail of the artwork, that will determine the start and end date of the project. So there are several factors to include in coming up with a start to end date from inception to completion of a project, and each is case by case.
Great. So how do I get to the YouTube channel with the slides? I'm going to drop that link in the chat. It's the Office of Cultural Development YouTube channel. There's a variety of resources and informative information there. The Chaffey National Heritage Area and Main Street have recently done some webinars on grants. So that may be something that people on this webinar are also interested in checking out. So with that, I don't see any other questions in the chat. So I believe we conclude the webinar. KaDavien, thank you so much for kicking off this webinar series. You did an excellent job, and looking forward to what's next with you and North Louisiana and Houston and beyond.
That's awesome. It was an honor to be here. Thanks everyone for joining. Thanks, Andrea, Bailey. This is just so great for information. I love what you're doing, Francesca, with the webinar series. And maybe we do work on a one-pager about how to do things in historic districts. Good deal.
Sounds great. All right.
Thank you.
Thank y'all. Have a great rest of y'all's day, everyone.
All right. Thank you all. Bye-bye.